Welcome to the Fear and Greed Business Interview. I'm Sean Aylmer. 99% of tech companies believe new graduates are not job ready, and it's taking up to 9 months to get them up to speed. It's a bit alarming both for tech companies and for tech-focused jobs in other industries, and it's pushing more companies to look offshore for workers. It's one of the key findings from the Digital State of the Nation report, a survey conducted by the Australian Information Industry Association. This lack of job-ready talent is combining with concerns over the economic outlook to make local tech companies reluctant to pursue overseas expansion. Siew Lee Seow is the General Manager of Policy and Media at the AIIA, the Australian Information Industry Association. Siew Lee, welcome to Fear and Greed.
Thank you for having me.
So is the job readiness of tech grads getting worse, or has this always been the case that they get a degree or a diploma or whatever they get and kind of need a lot more training?
It has always been fairly bad. This particular year, we've gotten the worst result in the last 3 years.
Okay. Is that an issue with the education, do you think? I mean, why is that the case?
Well, it's a disconnect between the education and the industry. So what we're finding, so beyond the survey from our members, are that we seem to have, the schools coming up with a set of scientific skills, but they're not just technology skills. So it's not the skills that are coming out is not the skills that are being needed at the moment. And so you've got that one problem of knowledge, the lack of knowledge, and then you've got another problem of lack of experience. So even if you come up with technology skills, you may not be able to be deployed on field for cybersecurity protection, for example. So it's a two-layer problem, the lack of knowledge, the lack of experience.
So what impact is it having on small and medium-sized businesses in particular?
The impact are that, number one, it's going to increase business costs. So there's a greater competition for the right talent. The other one is that because of the rising costs, we're seeing a lot more of our businesses going overseas to look for talent. So last year, about 1% was going to look for talent overseas. Now it's been 7%. So that has started to increase as well.
What can be done to improve it? How can we fix things?
Yeah, we think there are a couple of possible solutions. One is to increase the dialogue between the educational sector and the industry. So having a lot more real-time feedback on what skills we need. The other is that we're seeing a lot of programs are like 2 years, 4 years. Because of how fast technology change, we need a bit more agile approach where the schools can come up with graduates with more timely or job-ready skills in line with how the technology is developing. I understand, before we mentioned about the lack of experience, we think there needs to be a bit more creativity around curriculum as well. So more workplace integrated learning, for example. So less of the theoretical side, more of the hands-on learning side as well.
Stay with me, Siew Lee. We'll be back in a minute. My guest this morning is Siew Lee Seow, General Manager of Policy and Media at the Australian Information Industry Association. The other thing I find with education in technology, it's if you want to be a lawyer, you kind of know what you have to learn, and if you want to be a doctor, it's a bit the same. But technology to me seems totally vast, from project management to cyber skills through to artificial intelligence. Are the learning providers targeting skills, targeting learning appropriately, do you think?
We don't think so. We don't think there's a very good in-depth understanding on the range of skills. I think it's we discussed just now, there's the scientific, very technical, hard skills, and then there's the very soft skills, which is the management, the psychology of technology, for example. Mm-hmm. So I don't think the curriculum or the schools are understanding the breadth of skills that are necessary and for the different types of jobs in the technology sector.
So this is kind of referring to what you said a moment ago. Would it be a good idea to get industry closer to education to somehow try and work together to get people more job ready?
Definitely. So I'll give you another example. One of the anecdotal feedback from our members. What you have sometimes in some schools is that you've got one teacher who happens to be really good at IT, and he's an IT teacher. He may not be actually IT trained. He just happens to be someone who's good with computer. And so that person probably deployed in a school with this additional responsibility to talk about technology without actually understanding the sector, and is not supported by the sector as well with the latest information. So I think that's where we did play with the idea whether we can get both sectors closer and to support the IT teachers in schools.
Artificial intelligence. We hear so much about it. It is the future. It's a revolution. We've heard all that. Where are the workers going to come from that understand and know how to use artificial intelligence? And I have actually looked up to try and work out how to learn about artificial intelligence. So I've looked for courses online, and there are some very generic courses online. But to be honest, there doesn't seem to be a great deal of study available on AI at this point.
I think there are different categories of the use of artificial intelligence. So there's the very simple basic form, which is, are you able to deploy artificial intelligence as a user? Then the next level up is, are you able to develop artificial intelligence? So there's a bit more coding, a bit more about data set training, etc. So there's different levels. A lot of the training that we can see and AWI has done, for example, is we've worked with the Queensland government where we've managed to provide training to workers within jobs to kind of start deploying AI in their existing environment with their existing problems, for example. So we're training them as they are doing the work. And then the other skill set, which is a lot more sophisticated, would then be obviously the ones we'll be going through schools, for example, where there's a lot more formal training for that kind of work.
So the whole idea of reskilling it sounds like it's going to become more and more important in this area.
Yes, because it's a lot more agile and it's a lot more situated in your workplace. So it gives you context on how the AI skills is being used in your workplace.
Okay, let's bring the government into this. Are they doing enough? Or firstly, do they understand the critical role of information and technology, and are they doing enough to support it?
Yeah, that is definitely a big issue currently for our sector. And the short answer is we don't think it's doing enough. We think there is a disproportionate attention towards the regulation than the innovation and the adoption side of things. So we're seeing the government spending more energy in trying to figure out how to regulate the space to ensure that it's safe, which we agree with. We just don't see the same investment in, training the people of Australia, or young students up in artificial intelligence skills, for example, or training workers in workplace by supporting, for example, the businesses in giving them grants or helping them understand what tools they have to train their workers. So it's not a balanced approach. We in the last budget, we were quite disappointed that we put out a press release that only about $40 million were given to the whole of artificial intelligence, including standing up new regulatory framework. And that really pales in comparison to what we're seeing in other jurisdictions. So, for example, in Canada, there was, I think it's $2.7 billion in training to develop sovereign AI that is Canadian. And then we've seen Singapore putting another couple $1 billion as well in training. It's definitely put money for training people who are above the age 40 in AI. So if you want to go back to get a diploma, you can. The government's going to pay for that. So we just don't see the same amount of investment through our budget in training the Australian people or Australians in starting to use this emerging technology.
Siew Lee, thank you very much for talking to Fear and Greed.
Thank you.
That was Siew Lee Seow, General Manager of Policy and Media at the Australian Information Industry Association. This is the Fear and Greed Daily Interview. Join us every morning for the full episode of Fear and Greed, daily business news for people who make their own decisions. I'm Sean Aylmer. Enjoy your day.